We are here in the world of the internet. Bo Burnham sang a song like this. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure
Clappity
that,
clap clap clappity clap.
like all of Bo Burnham's material, it insisted upon itself. Let's see.
Sure did. It sure did.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nathan, and I'm joined by my co-host Justin. Something that I'm saying because I'm making my students do podcasts in their classes now, and I insist they introduce themselves and their co-hosts. And I realized that I was failing the rubric that I had written
Oh.
often on this podcast.
Very good, very
But I
good.
guess in the rubric that I gave them, it also says it has to be appropriate for school. And here we are.
Here we
So
are.
we are here. We're going to record our Florida preview podcast. I am going to try to avoid hyperbole that would get my, get my license revoked.
No promises.
No promises, but we're going to do our best. And we are going to afterwards probably hop offline and do some patron only question times, because we got a couple of questions that we are just super not going to answer live, but that we would love to give to our patrons. And if you'd like to hear those, you can join our Patreon right now before the end of this episode even. And if you have it set up right, you can get on the Discord before the end of this episode at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. And I need you to vamp so that I can post the Twitch link.
You want me to sing more about woodland critters? Oh, I think I probably have a thing for woodland critters the way I do because I relate a lot to that whole Snow White situation. My wife actually tells me a lot that I wake up in the morning and I'm just ready to go, and I like sing and open the windows and all the woodland creatures come in and they help me make her breakfast and lunch and the coffee. It's a real thing. And that's what happens for any of you that have never woken up or choose not to wake up before 7 a.m. That's exactly what happens between the hours of 5:30 and 7 a.m. It's important. It's very important.
Mm-hmm. I get up and run in the mornings at about that time, and I feel like not Snow White.
I'm alive.
I feel like the Sleeping Beauty. Angelina Jolie played her Maleficent when she turns into a dragon.
I was about to say that's a weird Snow White. And by weird, I
when
mean
I run in the mornings.
That Snow White gives me funny feelings.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Snow White had cheekbones like Maleficent, then
yeah,
I'd probably like her more, if we're being honest.
Cut diamonds of those things.
Yeah. So I'm just
clearly this is a football podcast, and that's what you've come here for. You've come here for hot piss takes, Dan Mullen takes.
You can just go ahead and mark this because we need to pin a media clip of this to our Twitter account so that people understand why we do what we do. So here's how Chapel Bell Cove works. Okay, so in a typical 3 to 4, let's say the typical college football game, including commercials, intros, outros, pregame, halftime, is between 3.5 and 4 hours. Usually it's about 3:45 if you time it all the way through. Now that's if they're on the 30-second timeout system, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's the average time. Now, of that 3 hours and 45 minutes, about 25 minutes is actual live game, and that's being probably pretty generous, right? There's really not that much real time when football is being played. A lot of it is during the dead ball. The vast majority of the game the ball is dead. So what we try to do in the spirit of verisimilitude and the spirit of responding rationally to the world around us is match that ratio in our podcast of actual football to bullshit, because 85% of a real football game is Capital One commercials and waiting in line to use a bathroom that smells bad, right? So we just want you to have a real authentic football experience, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing that we don't have, that we haven't been able to reproduce because obviously we don't want to, is the 125 some odd years of systemic racism and exploitation of capital.
I was going to say Gary Danielson, so I wasn't too far off, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
comes with the territory.
Well, the difference between us and Gary Danielson is that we've never pretended to be good at what we do. Like, I'll tell you I'm bad. At least I'm honest.
Yeah.
Like, I am an idiot. Gary Danielson has never said he's an idiot.
Not That's to our problem. Faces.
If he gave the intro every time and was like, "Hello and welcome to sold out Sanford Stadium in sunny Athens, Georgia, and I'm stupid," then that would all it would have to be. Like, yeah, that would be enough.
We're not asking much.
Yeah, man. All right. So let's talk about it. Let's do this dang preview thing, man.
Yeah. All right.
Do what we came here to do. I'll do the intro.
Okay.
Let me just. Hello. Welcome to Chapel Bell Curve, a stats-focused podcast about UGA football. I'm Nathan.
And I am Justin.
And we're here today to review what I feel like it's the day after Christmas. I'm about 5 pounds heavier, and I'm still a little hungover from all the sugar and carbs. And I'm playing with my new Christmas presents, and I haven't yet cleaned up all the wrapping paper. And in that same way, we are here to review last Saturday's UGA Christmas, which was the Florida game. A game in which, if you have been asleep for the last 72 hours, which why wouldn't you? Georgia won 34-7. So
sure did.
Let's start with some subjective experiences. Justin, how was your day? What did you do?
It was a lovely day. It was for the first time in 2 months I slept in. And then that was how my perfect day began. I slept in. I watched approximately, I believe after that, 9 episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, which is the most TV I've watched in a long time. I don't watch a lot of TV.
Oh, did you watch
season? Really nice time.
Did you watch season 3?
No, I just watched the first season. I had never seen like the whole season, so I just started over and watched my spooky TV.
It's so good.
It was great.
It's so good, Justin.
I know. I'm so excited.
Laszlo is literally my favorite character on television. You haven't even gotten to Jackie Daytona. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. So I really enjoyed that. And then, I went over and enjoyed the game with family, and it was a nice, easygoing time. Then after that, I'm just skipping through all the football things, because what was really important was that it was the Wild Rumpus here in Athens. And so I went and I Wild Rumpused and I danced, and it was all very, very nice and good. I enjoyed it very much.
Did you have a costume?
Of course I had a costume. Anna and I went
What was your costume this year?
We were Mary Poppins and Bert. And so I covered my face and body in eyeshadow so I could get that real sooty look, and Anna kept telling people I was the dirtiest boy. And it was great. I had a great time. I made my own little chimney sweep, and I danced around on it. I had a great time.
Yeah. That's a really delicate balance, right? To be slit face and not black face. That must have been some real.
I did actually. I was in the bathroom.
You did some real vetting on that one.
Yeah, I was in the bathroom and I pulled Anna. I was like, I think that if I get any dirtier, I may be venturing into dark blackface. And she was like, yeah, you should stop. I'm like, good call.
Well, because we are in future politician blackface season, right?
Oh yeah, this is it.
Everyone who's going to be running for Senate in 2032 is currently deciding whether or not they want to be in blackface, right?
Oh yeah, Saturday night, there at any given point in time, there was every hour on the hour, I'm sure, some affluent white child who was ruining their future job opportunities.
Well, that's life. Anyway, so you didn't really too sad. So you didn't really have, I guess, a lot of actual in-game.
I did sit on the couch. I enjoyed the game itself. I was going to wait until we got into it because, subjectively speaking, I had the first quarter was weird. The rest of the game was great. I will say, and I think this was probably everybody's experience, the fact that we're watching the game, nail biting. I lost Nathan on the visual, but
I'm back. Everybody calm down. I was just fixing something on the... I was trying to do it silently.
There he is.
All right, Carrie. I'm here with you. Which is switching the angle.
I think that everybody's kind of experience over the game, the course of the game, was if you blinked or left the couch for any amount of time in the last 2 minutes of the first half, you do not know what happened in the least bit. I remember turning around and I was like, huh. Everything is very different now. And then just looking back at the timestamps and realizing that in 2 minutes and 9 seconds, Georgia finish the game essentially in those middle 8. So it was absolutely bonkers, just the way that game turned around. And then the rest of the game was fine. Listen to the rest of the game on the radio as we headed home and got ready for the Wild Rumpus and everything. And yeah, just overall a really very good Athens time, I will say. But I know that you traveled down to the neutral ground that is Jacksonville. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about your full experience.
Well, it wasn't neutral. It was 95% UGA fans by the end of the game. So, first of all, on Friday, I want to shout out Brantley County and Brantley County High School. The Redcoats did practice in Brantley County, which is in South Georgia, and I don't want to get it wrong, so hold on. Let me give you the county seat first before I make a fool of myself. Anyway, we went down there. Oh, Nahunta, I believe, is the county seat. Anyway, we went down there and we had got a practice in and had like such an amazing reception. It was really crazy. We got down there and we thought it was just going to be a practice, and I didn't realize like the scale of what it was going to be, because there were like 300 high school kids, and it was like the whole junior high and the whole middle school were had just filled up this little like 1A South Georgia stadium, and they flipped out the entire time the band was on the field. Like everything they played, everything they did, there was like 300 children just screaming, and it was like a really good, a really like powerful morale moment, I think, to have. Like, talk about a good audience, man. Probably the most responsive audience I've seen the Redcoats have in like a decade. It was like really crazy. It was really cool. Lino Ray is the middle school director there, who was a trumpet with the Redcoats, and then the high school director is a guy who was a trombone player with Redcoats, whose name is I think it's Noah something. I can't remember his last name. And they were both kind enough to host us, and so it was a really good time. And oh yeah, and then we called the sousaphones up, and the sousaphones played, and everybody freaked out, and we played some stands tunes, and the sousaphones played really well. So it was a really good time. Let's see. The game itself, we just got a very nice sound system to mic our front ensemble, which we had ordered way earlier in the year and was supposed to come before the beginning of the year, but then COVID supply chain stuff, and it came like 2 weeks ago. So this was the game that we debuted this very complicated sound system at. And so that was really basically how I spent the last 72 hours. Like the Brantley County practice, part of it was just so we could practice rolling the sound system around. And then on Saturday, we had this really, really good plan. And I worked with the front ensemble and the props crew. And I just want to shout out the props crew and their props crew chiefs, especially Natalie. They do such a good job, and I was very lucky to work with them. And basically because of them, we got everything done, and I did very little except like stand there and have a polo on so they could go where they needed to go. But that was it's very high intensity. Like the experience of doing halftime was really wild, because we got down there, and I guess I can just like roll into a mini rant, which is not rant, but just I had talked to the guy that was at the gate of the tunnel that we were going to use, and I had said, hey, I'm going to have a bunch of Redcoat band members with me, and we're going to roll out before the team comes out, because we had to go out onto the field through the same tunnel that the team was going into their locker rooms, right? We went out onto the field like right past the locker rooms. And so, they had it all like gated off with the like cattle fencing kind of like crowd control gates or whatever like they have. And so I told him before, I told this guy and his manager, I was like, okay, the band's going to come through before the team goes out. We have permission to do this. Like, we talked to the university. We have an email from the university. They said it's cool. We have an email from the athletics. And the guy's like, cool. So we came down there like 8 minutes before halftime. And the guy's like, where are y'all's passes? And I was like, well, we're the band. Because I was just like, I'm standing there looking at him. And I could have handled it better because I didn't get angry or anything. I just like totally blanked out, because behind me was like 5 marimbas, 5 vibraphones, a drum set on a cart, and then like 4 giant speaker carts. And I was just like, I don't know what you want me to say, man.
You.
Yeah, like I'm not even angry at you. I know you're just doing your job, but like we have to go out there, and we got it resolved. So we get out there, and speaking of your sort of like turn away and you miss it thing. we get out there and we kind of have to like get everybody in the right. It's like a layer cake because we had to be behind the stadium or behind the bench off of the mat. They have this like mat that goes from like the 20 to 20, which is like the players area, and you can't be on it at all before the game or before halftime or whatever. And so we had to sort of like get people in the right like layer cake layers so that it was like pit and then the horn line. So we're like moving people around, and I'm running around and I'm like talking to like the people who are doing the like filling up the Powerade. I'm like, hey, can we just move this cooler over like 2 feet so we can get this mermaid in here? And then like I'm talking like the team doctor, like, hey, can we move this like oxygen tank over like 2 feet, because they wheeled the oxygen tank after the first interception, and Nolan Smith was like huffing and puffing. But all the way through that, it was like the first strip, like the strip sack from Nolan Smith. I was like, oh, cool, great. I have to go do like 30 more things, right? And so I thought we were going to run out of time the whole time, right? Because we were a minute and a half flat, and I'm just like running around. I'm like, okay, where's house power? Oh, we forgot an extra power cord. Okay, so we're going to have to run it off the batteries we have. So is the battery system charged? And then it's like, okay, do we have all of the speaker carts in the right place? And like, are the cords long enough? And blah, 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 blah. And then I look up and it's like, oh, we scored. Great, 10-0. And then I turn around, and I'm like running around again. And then like, I look up again and it's like, oh, okay, Nolan Smith has an interception. And then that was when I like got back into the game. And it was just like, we scored after the interception. I was like, hold on, we're up 17-0 now? What happened? Like, I like missed a full touchdown because it was so fast. Like, and when I rewatched this game, I thought that my like experiential, like being on the sidelines as it all happened, had like warped my perception of what was happening. But like, no, it was really that fast. Like, it really was like,
it was so
it's
fast.
3-0. It's 3-0. Now it's 24-0. Okay, cool. Let's play a good halftime show. So that was really good. And then I met my mom and her wee Scottish friend, her Emily Dickinson friend, Jane, for brunch on Sunday. And that was really fun. And I want to shout them out because they asked and they guilted me because they said, you don't shout your mother out on your podcast enough. And one of them had a Scottish accent. And let me tell you, that was just like right through the heart. So I just want to say, Mom and Jane, I love you both, and you have nothing to do with any rental company, including U-Haul. Anyway, so then on the way home, I went to Buc-ee's for the first time because there's a Buc-ee's in Jacksonville now, and that was like baby's first Buc-ee's trip. Was like, I was so overwhelmed, and I bought like about 8,000 calories in sugary and salty snacks. So it was a really good trip, man. I really enjoyed it.
Buc-ee's, I love all of Buc-ee's billboards because know Buc-ee's is coming for the next 200 miles.
They give you like 150 miles. Yeah, I definitely went in there not prepared because like I drove down there and back with Michael, who's another one of the band staff who's from Texas, and he like did the thing where like you go like when your friend tells you they haven't seen Star Wars and they want to watch Star Wars with you. And you're like, okay, information blackout. I'm not telling you anything. You just have to watch it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And so, like, I was like, I've never been to Buc-ee's before. When we were like 10 miles from Buc-ee's, and he was like, okay, we will not speak about this. Do not ask me questions. And so I got in there, and I was like, what the fuck is going on, man?
This is a gas station?
He's like, no, it's really like a Walmart. And I'm like, this is not a Walmart. It's like warm and inviting and cheap, and everyone is like nice, and it's like an irony-free zone where nothing hurts. Like, it's like I felt like that. There's a really good video of Anthony Bourdain getting drunk and going to Waffle House, and you can tell at first he kind of like thinks that he's above it, and then like he has the first bite of the waffle, and he's like, oh my god, this is the best thing that ever happened. It's like I wish there was a Buc-ee's every 10 miles on the interstate. I wish that we had built Buc-ee's with Dwight Eisenhower's money, like when we built the interstates, like just like built them into the bones of the nation. Yeah, God, it was so fun.
What's this whole thing? It's part of it.
Yeah, it's part of it. We're part of it. So, okay. So I have a couple of things I do want to talk about before we get on to actually talking about the game. So, Justin and I have worked on this project together creatively for about half a decade. We never really did it for the notoriety. We did think that we might get notoriety for like our opinions about football, and not for implying that Dan Mullen. Well, no, sorry, we have never, I want to be clear, implied that Dan Mullen pees his pants because he likes how it feels on his khakis, right? We never implied that. We don't think it's true. Dan Mullen is an adult man. There's no way that happens. We would never imply or think that he pees himself just so he can feel it on his khakis. And in fact, Your Honor, I would say for the record that it is spurious. It is slanderous to imply that we have ever said that. We have never said that Dan Mullen pisses on himself intentionally to feel it on his khakis.
Not once.
However, I do want to give credit where credit is due, because we were not the ones who came up with the idea of the fact that, no, Dan Mullen does not piss on himself to feel it on his khakis.
No.
That's not what we're saying. We were not the first people to say that that's not true. We want to give that
Nor
credit
will we
to
be the
my
last.
brother. We won't be the last, but we didn't start it. And we, at Chapel Bell Curve, as everyone knows, like, our watchword, the core of the bones of the show is integrity. And so it would be a lack of integrity of us to say that Dan Mullen pisses his pants because he likes the way it feels on his khakis, without giving credit to the fact that we stole that joke from my brother and me, who I believe said that they weren't saying that Ted Cruz pees himself because he likes to feel on his khakis. So they never said that. And we never said that about Dan Mullen either. But we want to give credit because integrity is important to us, and so is professionalism. And that we know that Dan Mullen, as a employed member of the University of Florida Athletic Program, the August institution, we know that he would never pee his pants because he liked it. And in fact, we also know that if he did, we don't kink shame. So that if he just wanted to do something because he liked it, as long as everyone is a consenting adult, we would be totally fine with Dan Mullen peeing himself just because he likes how it feels on his khakis. Absolutely. And so we just wanted to set the record straight vis-a-vis the fact that we are not saying that Dan Mullen pees on his pants and is a little piss baby at all.
Vis-a-vis Dan Mullen's khakis.
Yeah, vis-a-vis Dan Mullen's khakis. We think that Dan Mullen's khakis are Dan Mullen's business. And let me just add one more thing. I think that we should give Dan Mullen a lifetime contract at the University of Florida. I think the University of Florida should feel lucky to have a man of his quality, to have a coach that they know will never pee himself because he likes it, and have a coach that they know if he does, it'll be his business, because why you got to bring that junk up, and to have a coach that consistently attains top 5 in the SEC recruiting classes, that goes 9-4 in important years, that beats teams in the bottom tier of the SEC, and who has gone to an SEC championship. Don't get rid of this guy. He's a genius. He's an absolute genius. And I think the mark of his genius is, can you look at most coaches in the SEC and say they've never pissed on themselves just because they like the feel of it running down their khakis because it's so warm? No, you can't say that. But you can't say that about Dan Mullen, because we're not saying that he does that. All right.
I will. Oh, also on the right now in the live show, someone just commented on YouTube, as a lawyer, not our lawyer, just saying that out loud. This is not legal advice. They think we're good. Just to put a pin in that.
Yeah. So because again, I agree. I think we're also good because we're not saying that. We don't think that's true. We have respect for, we have respect and love for this man, and we are not doing this. We are not saying that he pees his pants because it's such a nice warm feeling and it makes him think of his mother for some reason. We're not saying that. That would not be what he was doing.
That's not a thing we would say. Because this is a show about football, not about Dan Mullen.
This is a show about football. Absolutely. All 100%. Right. Extend Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen should have a Mark Stoops contract where every time he wins 7 games, he gets like 6 more years. I hope Dan Mullen lives forever. I hope Dan Mullen is like Keanu Reeves and never leaves the University of Florida. And I mean, look, Florida is unequivocally a top 10, maybe a top 5 college coaching job in the nation. And I got to say, I mean, you got to really be impressed with his 1-4 record versus Kirby Smart and his 0-1 record versus Nick Saban. And I personally think that how could we let the dean of SEC college football, and yeah, I know that what you're saying, he hasn't been in the SEC the longest, so he's not technically the dean, but I would say that he's definitely the dean of not pissing himself because he likes the way it feels, right? Because he doesn't do that at all. So,
all right. Do you want to? Can we
talk about the football?
My God, it was like the record just kept skipping. You couldn't stop.
I don't know what.
Every time I say piss, I have to say it 3 more times. I have to keep it going.
I'm trying to do the thing where you like just tweet something enough that it becomes real.
It's like this.
This is the audio version of that. This is ASMR for people who like are grossed out by talk about. This is like immersion therapy for people who are averse to pee.
It's like you're Keanu Reeves and I'm Sandra Bullock, and this podcast is the bus from Speed, and the 65 miles per hour is piss talk about Coach Dan Mullen from Florida. And we have to keep it going, or else we will all die.
Yes. If we slow down, this podcast explodes. And you don't want that. We have all these good people on our Patreon who, for some reason, paid $1 to get on this bus, and God only knows this bus reeks of piss at this point. So why are they even here? We got to get the SWAT team in here. We got to get Keanu and Sandra. We got to get these people out of here because this bus slows down. I mean, and this thing just feels like this thing smells like a mattress at a cat sanctuary at this point. Like we gotta clean. It's in the structural beams right now. This bus. You're gonna have to get down and like bleach the carburetor out to get the piss and smell out of this podcast. I gotta tell you, we're in trouble here, guys. Anyway, let's talk about Shakespeare. I have a quote that I want to read today.
Let's talk about Shakespeare. Let's do it.
Let's talk about football. So, in Act 5, Scene 6 of Macbeth. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I know we're on the rails right now. I'm just in a good mood because I hate Florida so much. Oh, God. I hate these guys so much. Oh, God. I do have a Macbeth quote prepared, though, if you'd like me to read it now.
Oh, yes, please do. Yep. Well, we're going to need a palate cleanser that is piss. Not piss, rather.
We got to use, here, we're all about, college football eats the whole buffalo. That's their thing, is they like, or split zone judo, rather, eats the whole buffalo, college football, where they talk about all the different games, even the games between lower teams. And I like to think that we eat the whole buffalo, the experience of being around an aging millennial who has watched too much anime and didn't have enough dates in high school, right? We want to really get the full picture, like toe to tip of what it's like to be that person.
Don't miss any of it.
Anyway, and let's just go ahead and call that this might be the cold open. This is Macduff in Act 5, Scene 6. He's holding Macbeth's hand, or Macbeth's head that he's cut off. Hail, King, for so thou art. Behold, where stands the usurper's cursed head. The time is free. I see thee compassed with thy kingdom's pearl. They that speak my salutation in their minds, whose voices I desired aloud with mine. Hail, King of Scotland. Hail, Macbeth, and hail Dan Mullen. Long may he reign as the coach of the University of Florida. Let's talk about the game. GameOnPaper.com/CFB is where we get our advanced box scores. Let's go over it. Justin, observations, thoughts.
Oof. Hold on, I gotta get my fucking mind right again. Hold on, I'm going over the stats. Jeebs. Okay. Oh, man. Hold on. I want to look. This is what I want to look at. I want to look at this win expectancy real quick. This win expectancy and see where it just tanks. Because, well, actually, so this is really interesting. Well before even, where is this? Game seconds elapsed. 12:27, 12:48. Hey, how many minutes is 1,391 seconds? Quick!
1,391 seconds?
Yeah, okay, it's right before halftime. So this is when, so let me just say this. At no point in this game did Georgia have lower than 73% win probability. Which I just think is outstanding. Even in the first quarter, when we were kind of having a moment where we were like, well, we're not really getting the wheels, we're really not getting any traction. We're not really going anywhere, it seems. Even then, didn't really matter. By the time that the game was in hand, we were at a 98% win percentage. So we were well past 80% even before all the defense scored all those points, which is just wild to me. One thing that I do really, really, really just want to spend some time on is this work of art that is the middle 8 plays for this game. My God.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
My God. I want to crop just this bit here, and we're going to sell it as merch is what we're going to do. We're just going to crop it, frame it, and sell it on the merch store is what's going to happen. Oh, boy. Because, in 2 minutes and 9 seconds in the middle 8, Georgia turned the entire game around, as we said before. So middle 8 plays. Georgia had 8 plays during these middle 8. Florida had 16. EPA for both these teams.
Christ,
Georgia's EPA, 6.26. Florida's was negative 16.52. And so that is good for an EPA per play for Georgia, 0.78, and for Florida, negative 1.03.
Okay, hold on. Can I pause you there? We don't do enough. We don't do a good enough job of like contextualizing these numbers sometimes when it comes to EPA. Because the problem with EPA is that it's on a relative scale, so it's kind of hard to know what is good EPA. So just to be clear, like 0.4 EPA for a quarterback is like pretty good, right? UJ doubled that per play in these middle 8 plays, right? Now, which to be clear is not the middle 8 plays of the game. It is during the middle 8 minutes, the 4 minutes before halftime and 4 minutes after halftime. UJ got about almost a point a play.
Yeah,
that is the kind of thing that you see in games where, like, you know, you play an FCS team and you win like 79-0 or something. That is deeply ridiculous against like a conference rival.
Oh yeah. So on top of that, still, let me go back to just the bigger game. So that's just the middle 8. The bigger game, total plays for these two teams. Georgia had 59 plays in the day to Florida's 86. Georgia actually had a negative EPA in the game, negative 0.53, and Florida had a negative 27.48, which I believe is perhaps the lowest EPA of a team we've played against this season. Almost.
While you're looking at that, let me just give you a couple of other things.
Yes, please.
So UJ's offensive EPA was 2.53 on the day, which is like fine. Fine to pretty good. But they actually lost 4 EPA on penalties, and then they lost another 1.58 EPA on special teams, right? So they actually, without missing a couple of field goals and having some timely penalties, they were actually on track to have a pretty good EPA day in both a relative and total sense. But they just had some sort of key moments that really swung things. Like, I think it's probably arguable, and the EPA doesn't see this like in the way that I'm about to talk about it in terms of flow of the game. But I think if you connect on that first field goal, this game gets out of hand even faster. I think, you know, Florida, I don't really believe in momentum, but I do believe that defenses especially feed off of success. And so giving Florida that success, like when you miss a field goal, when you decide to kick it on 4th and 1 inside of your own 30, which is a bad decision. Sorry, Kirby. But when you make that decision, which is not a good one, and then you fail, right? Even though the defense didn't really succeed because it just happened because of the decision you made, they still feel like they got a 4th down stop, right? And so I think that missing that field goal and having like a couple of other key miscues in terms of penalties and just sort of like blown assignments actually made this game closer than it had to be, right? I think there's an argument to be made that if you just play like not even a clean game, but if you play just like 15% cleaner or like 1 or 2 plays, this would have gone from a blowout to a really big blowout. And what's wild about it is that like the same is not true in reverse. You know what I'm saying? Like if you give Florida a couple of big plays back, like maybe they don't throw the pick 6, you're still up 17-0. Like for this to be a close game, they have to basically not commit any of the 3 turnovers they committed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I get it, live by the turnover, die by the turnover, but like, dude, like 2 of those turnovers were like coached turnovers. They were not like random fumbles. Like Nolan Smith decided not to tackle and attack the ball in a big moment, right? Like Nakobe Dean like baited, basically. If I think Graham has something really good on this. Graham Coffee at Dog Out West has something really good on this about this on his Twitter. Basically, Nakobe Dean saw Anthony Richardson throw that little like flat pass to the wide receiver on a similar look earlier in the game, and he was playing zone at that point, or he was at least playing soft man, and he like baited Anthony Richardson into making that play and then ran it back, right? Like those were not random, like, you know, you get 50% of the fumbles that you cause turnovers. Those were like, you know, you have a 285-pound defensive lineman and Trayvon, what's Trayvon's last name? 44. Walker, sorry.
Yeah.
And Trayvon Walker, who drops back into coverage coming off of a fire blitz, and he tips a pass that gets intercepted by your 265-pound defensive end. Right? That's like, to me, that pass, that the Nolan Smith interception was just like, it was the synthesis of what Kirby Smart wants to do as a football coach in that pass. It was complementary defense that got backed up by complementary football by scoring on the next play, caused by 2 5-stars that are freaks of nature that can play anywhere on the field. I mean, it was like, if you want to see what Kirby Smart's vision for the team is, that's it. It's that play. Anyway.
So looping back around to just a moment ago, the only team that has a lower total EPA, I just wanted to loop back around and say, is UAB, who we beat 56-7. The difference between those two is negative 27.7 for UAB. Florida has a negative 27.48. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit more dirt in that wound. And I think that you may have said this the other day, but you gave me words to express it. But the idea that this team can still turn over the ball 3 times and come away with such a decisive victory after this is just that, like, this defense is unreal. It's unreal. It's unbelievable to watch this defense play football. And it's a very special time for all of us. And I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, I guess that gives us a moment. I'd like to transition into our observations when we talk about, literally losing the words to be hyperbolic about this defense. I do want to point out a couple of things that I think are pretty powerful. And I don't think I'm the first one to point this out, but a couple of things that I think really show, like, Todd Monken being smart in this game. So, like, UGA on the year has been running inside zone read about 20% of the time. They've run it 94 times for a 50% success rate. It's about 18% of their plays run, and it accounts for about 14% of their yards, right? Inside zone read, that's usually either inside slam or bluff read. Those are the 2 most run plays inside of that concept. So I think that's interesting because they ran inside zone read only 13% of the time in this game, but they also ran what SEC StatCat would classify as inside power read, but they ran counter 6 times in this game, which had been run like 20-something times by LSU. And on those 6 times, they had an 83% success rate and an average yards gained of 12.83. So, like, what I think is interesting is that Todd Monken saw that, like, Florida's not going to be able to fix this in 1 week, even if they know they're bad against counter. So I'm just going to run it. And he actually ran it, I think, on the first run of the play, or the first play of the game. He's also killing people with flood, which is like that PA boot is usually a flood play where Stetson rolls out and he has like a tight end rolling across in front of them. And then he has like a deep crosser on the second level. And he hits the tight end on that route a lot. But and then running like cross and Y cross and shallow cross. So flood variations was still there, which I thought was interesting because it's like from a concept standpoint, this offensive game plan is really interesting because, like, Monken didn't think he had to change much to beat this team. You know what I mean? He ran counter a little bit more because he thought that they weren't schematically sound against it. But then he just pretty much ran flood variations, screens, shot variations, inside zone read, inside power read, like outside zone. Those like 5 or 6 concepts, those are the most run concepts on the year. Right. And he changed like 1 play and then he just ran it until they could stop it, which they couldn't. Right. And so, like, even though Florida did have a lot of success in the first half, well, not a lot, I will say some success in the first half limiting Georgia's offense, I thought it was interesting that he was willing to just, like, not go outside of what he knew this team was good at. Right. And to me, that was, like, I don't know, really impressive. And it was a really kind of ballsy move to like go pretty shallow in the playbook. Like, he ran stick once, he ran spot triangle once, he ran slant variations once. Like, all of these things are things that he's been running the entire year. And the only thing he really changed is he ran tackle counter a couple of times. And it's like, to me, that's like the greatest show of disdain I can think of, right? I'm not saying he didn't game plan for this team. He obviously did. It was just like, he didn't think he had to pull, like, to go very deep in the book. This is not like some 3D chess thing where I'm saying, like, oh, they're saving more plays for Alabama. I'm saying, like, they didn't think they had to, right? They thought they could save plays without needing to save for Alabama or anybody. They thought they could just, like, run their stuff and get points on this team, and it worked.
And they did.
Yeah, and they did. All right.
A great time was had by all.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about our? Do you want to talk about just observations? What we saw? What we want to talk about?
You've got some good notes here. Actually, hit me with yours.
Well, I mean, as we were kind of saying earlier, I've run out of words to use about this defense.
Yes.
I mean, they're just. They're like. I was listening to when I got home. I had a moment where like, I had like 25,000 steps on the watch at that point, and I just had to sit down before I went and watched the Rays game with some of the staff. And I was sitting there on my bed in the hotel, and I put on the Shutdown Fullcast live recording, and I think it was I'm gonna say Jason from Shutdown Fullcast said that basically this defense is like 2019 LSU. They're like the defensive version of 2019 LSU.
Yes.
Where this weird alchemy happens and a team just does things that have never been done before on the football field, and like that's what this team is. I think on Shutdown Fullcast they said it was like watching someone drop a chicken into a tiger cage on every snap. And I think Dog Sports said that it was like this defense is like the Predator from the Predator movies if it could feel disrespected. To me, it's like this defense is what happens when you don't have to protect anyone.
Yeah.
When you don't like, I think it was really obvious when they put Chris Smith in there, and they were like, Chris Smith is going to clean up everything on the backside. He's going to jump on these, like, you know, he jumped on the running back pass. He jumped on the wheel route. Like, he kept everything tricky in front of him. And I think when they saw that they could do that, they were like, all right, we can do whatever we want. Like, this is what happens when you really have your full playbook on every snap. Like, I think, and I'm not a very good X's and O guys, really on defense, even more than I'm not a very good X's and O's guy on offense, which I'm not, but it's even worse on defense. But like, I think you can tell if you just watch like even a cursory like watch of like where do people go on this defense at the snap. It's like Dan Lanning really can use the whole book on every play because there's not a concept in the playbook these guys can't execute, and that is incredibly rare.
Yeah,
like every year you have to narrow down stuff because you only have one good defensive end, or you only have one good cornerback, or one of your safeties can cover really well but he can't hit, or your defensive tackle can either plug the run, or you have another defensive tackle that can rush the passer. Everybody on the starting 11 of this defense can execute the entire playbook.
Yeah,
and I like that doesn't happen. Like I don't know how else to say that. It just doesn't happen. Like it's
unreal.
not. Yeah, it's unreal in the very literal sense, as in like it does not happen in college football, right? Like, I mean, like I thought Nolan Smith had an incredibly good day. Just not just because like obviously he had some highlight plays, but he was just really smart the whole game. Like you can tell the game is slowed down for him. He's making interceptions. He's causing fumbles at the right moment. He looked really great in the pass rush. He looked good against the run. You know, this is something I think Richard Johnson pointed out from Split Zone Duo, that like Channing Tindall like lost contain on a little, like it wasn't an angle route, but it was like a running back route out of the backfield. He was running like an H back, I guess, cross, and he lost containing. He went the wrong way. The running back was cutting in from him, and he went out, and then he ran the running back's route for him. Like he ran back and got ahead of the running back route, and then broke up a pass that wasn't even being thrown to that running back because he was so far ahead of the running back who had gotten in front of him. Like, that doesn't happen. That's all that. I mean, it's something that you just like. You have your average college football defense, or even your above average college football defense that's gritty and good and plays really well, has like a Nakobe Dean, and that's it. Or they have a Nolan Smith, or they have a Tramel Wathauer, or they have Devonta Wyatt, or they have a Trayvon Walker, and they have one of those guys, and then he becomes like the darling, and everyone's talking about him constantly. Georgia has 11 of those guys.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Outside of the defense, I mean, are we gonna? Do you want to talk about the quarterback? Well, let me say two good things about the offense. I thought the offensive line looked really confused at times in the first half. It seemed like after that run from White, after the turnover on the short field and they had a touchdown, that a really good second level combo block from the interior of the offensive line. I thought they looked way better after that. I thought there were just times where it wasn't even like they weren't executing blocks. It was like they were just like blocking the wrong guy, or we would run counter. And like we'd run counter, we'd run power, and we'd swing an offensive lineman, and he would just go after the wrong guy and block him well, but just be in the wrong place, right? And so it seemed like they cleaned some of that up. I still think I would like to see more from the O-line of just like, let's play a complete game, right? I don't think the O-line has really played a 4-quarter game against a good SEC team yet, which is like, that's gentle criticism. I think they can. They just have to kind of get it together early in the game a little bit more. What are you going to say about Zamir White, man? I mean, he's running himself into being a star. Right? He really looks stronger than everybody else. He looks stronger than everybody else. And we're using him well. I think we're doing kind of an NBA thing where like we are the Spurs and we know we're the Spurs and we gave him some nights off in like, December and January. And now it's like March and he's still fresh. And you can tell like, he goes through the fourth quarter and he like is not tired.
No.
Because he has a lot of tread on the tire because we're using him well. And I think that kind of like NBA style management of running back cores is like actually a thing that UGA has been doing pretty well for a while. And I think it's really paying off this season in particular because you just see just guys get into the game, they're not tired, and they just run people over. I mean, like James Cook, who is I walked right by him. Oh, I forgot to tell you. As the captains were coming out, I was walking back off of the field after pregame, and James Cook was just standing there looking very serious. And I walked by, and I was like, "Hey, good luck, man." I was like from like 6 inches away from him, and he just looks at me, and then he just like no look fist bumps me, and it was the coolest thing.
The coolest thing that's ever happened to you.
The coolest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying I was cool in that moment. I just like put my fist up and accepted the dap. But like he didn't even, he was like, he looked at me and he was like, and he looked back out to the field and just like put his fist up. And it was like, I felt like the Coke commercial where Mean Joe Green throws his jersey at the guy. I was like, I'm never washing my hand again. This is the best moment of my life. Anyway, but like James Cook was like knocking people over in the fourth quarter, and he weighs like 110 pounds. That's an exaggeration, but it's like
he's a fast little boy.
I think we managed the running backs well, and I think that's going to continue to pay off for us. Because keep in mind, and we were talking about this at band practice this week, like that the halftime of if UGA is going to win the national title, halftime of the Florida game was halfway through the season. Halftime of the Florida game was halftime of the season if we're going to go to the national title. So like managing minutes and managing like, just tread on the tires for impact positions and rotating as much as we do on defense. These are like in like specific strategies that are going to help us going forward. And I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the quarterback. I think we have to.
This has kind of been your thing each week of like, hey, Nathan, they're still talking about it in the news. Is it bad? Is it good? What is the deal? Now it seems like there might be something to discuss now. And there may be some out there with their tinfoil hats that are wondering, is there something we're not aware of what's going on? So tell us, tell the inquiring minds, is there something we should worry about? Not in the sense that, is JT not as good as he was? Is Stetson much better? It's more of like what is happening?
Well, okay, I think there's two possibilities. I think I know which one is true because I think you at this point have to pretend that Kirby Smart is smart and that Kirby Smart is smart and that that he's like an intelligent guy gonna do the smarter of these two options. Okay. So the smart option is JT Daniels is healthy, but he hasn't practiced. The medical staff is worried about his injury, which could be easily re-aggravated. They thought they were going to put him in the second half. I think that my sort of, you want to hear my tinfoil hat conspiracy. I think if this game goes to half at 3-0, that we see JT Daniels. I really do. But I think that we're 24-0. Why do you put him in? If you have credible Jesus, Nathan. If you have credible evidence to show that JT Daniels could easily re-aggravate a lat injury, and you're up 24 points or 21 points or whatever it was, it doesn't make sense to put him in, right? And so that I think is the intelligent option where it's like Kirby Smart probably wants JT Daniels to start. Kirby Smart needs JT Daniels to be as healthy as he can be to get all the way through the stretch run, and he also would like him to practice more to get the rust off. So in that scenario, maybe you see Stetson against Missouri, we see some JT at the end of the game against Missouri, or we see JT mixed in. Maybe we don't see JT at all, but we see him against Tennessee a little bit or Charleston Southern a little bit, right? And then we go into Georgia Tech, and then JT Daniels probably takes over by Georgia Tech. Is kind of what I can see. Or maybe Charleston Southern, JT Daniels takes the job back. Now, that is assuming that like everyone's healthy and we're all playing at like the top of our ability level, right? Because there's also like, there's also the option that like JT just is not healthy or he has regressed for some reason. So I guess that's option 3, right? But just assuming that he hasn't regressed and he is getting healthier, I think the scenario is, sure, you probably start Stetson against Missouri and you start bringing in JT, you knock the rest off. I think it's pretty clear that this is a team that knows what they have in Stetson Bennett for good and for ill, right? You ran 55% of the time. You ran 29 run plays, 6 RPOs, and 23 pass plays. Part of that's because Florida can't defend the pass, but part of that is also just because, you probably know what you have in Stetson Bennett, which is not a bad quarterback, to be clear. I like Stetson. I don't think he's bad, right? I'm not even saying he can't beat Alabama. I'm just saying I think Kirby Smart would prefer if JT took the job, because I think that he processes faster. I think he's more decisive. I don't even know that he has more arm strength, but I just think he gets the ball down the field a lot easier at some point. And sometimes he doesn't press on downfield play action throws, which Stetson will. And I think you also know, in the first half, the offensive line is having a bad day, and, Stetson's getting flushed. And in that scenario, yeah, it makes sense to put a guy in who can run away from pressure. So the smart version of this is we start to see JT a little bit more, and then, JT either like sort of takes over the job, Charleston Southern, Georgia Tech, maybe Tennessee, something like that. Okay. And then there's the option where maybe Stetson's or JT's regressed, and it's like, I can't account for that, whatever. If that happens, whatever. I guess that happens. They see the practice. The stupid version of this, and the version that, boy, God, do I hope is not happening. I'm trying not to work myself up about this, but the stupid version is one of two things. Either one, Kirby Smart refuses to play JT Daniels because he thinks it's safer not to change quarterback when he's winning games, which would indicate to me that, like, if that was the truth, which we would never hear it because no one would ever say that, but if that was the truth, it would indicate to me that, like, Kirby Smart doesn't have object permanence and he can't remember that we have to play like better teams going forward, right? Or two, Kirby Smart doesn't want to bench Stetson because he thinks it's Stetson's team.
Yeah.
I know they say on radio that if you're silent for more than 3 seconds, you start to sound stupid, but like I don't. Maybe I do, but I don't. If one of those is true, I don't know what to say about that. Like I guess we just can't trust Kirby Smart with quarterbacks. It's like, once is a coincidence, twice is a pattern, and 3 times is enemy action. And it's like, I think we're kind of approaching that point. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that you're going to see more JT Daniels. And I think, a lot of this is probably just Kirby Smart smoke screens. He probably knows he doesn't like JT Daniels' health situation right now. And he's saying it anyway just to screw with people. And that's fine. He doesn't owe me that. But, like, if JT Daniels is healthy, and if JT Daniels is playing at the best of his ability, it doesn't matter whose team it is. It doesn't matter, like, what continuity doesn't matter in this situation. Who gives you the best chance to win the national title? I don't care about anything else. This isn't Rudy, right? Rudy got in for one play in a game that Notre Dame was already winning. I don't care about the stories. It's been 41 years since we've gotten a ring, and I want to get a Georgia tattoo. I do not give a shit whose team this is, who can beat, in order, Alabama, Ohio State, Alabama. Because if you can't do that, you shouldn't be starting. And in a situation where JT Daniels is healthy and doesn't start for some weird reason, then it's like, yes, I think it is safe to say that Kirby Smart has a quarterback management problem. I don't think that's what's going to happen, right? But I'm just telling you, be prepared for the end of this podcast if that is what happens, because I will spout a beam of energy out of my mouth like the girl from The Fifth Element and then collapse into a pile of dust if that happens. If we lose the national championship with Stetson Bennett starting and JT healthy on the bench, I will turn into Dorian Gray's portrait. Like, I will be done. Like, find a new co-host, because, like, I don't know what's going to happen to my body.
Oh, buddy.
All right.
Oh, I hope it
I think
doesn't
I
happen.
controlled that pretty well.
I think you did too. What are some? Do you have some bigger takeaways from this game? How do you feel about it?
I mean, ultimately, you had a pretty bad offensive day, and even outside of Stetson, right? I don't think Stetson was the worst part about the offensive day. He had 2 stupid picks, but he looked good at times, right? I think the offensive line was a big issue. I think the running backs were making chicken salad out of chicken crap a lot of the time. You know what I'm saying? So like, you had a bad offensive day and you won by 27 points, right? I had a feeling, kind of moving to my takeaway, I feel like this was kind of a sea change game for me, at least my perception of this team. And there have been 3 games that I've been to that I have this like vivid memory of being like, oh, wow, that's different, right? And the first one was, I think, 2011 Auburn. It was the second year of Todd Grantham. We beat the crap out of a ranked Auburn team. It was like 45-14. But that's not even what I cared about. I remember watching that game and being like, oh, the defense is getting on the field and they're not blowing obvious coverages. Oh, the defense knows what they're doing and they're not perfect, but they like kind of know where they're going, because that had been the problem with Willie Martinez, is that like the defense just looked confused a lot of the time, right? And then I remember 2017 Florida. That was another one. It was like we were all worried, and we were like, "What's going? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, can we beat this team? They're pretty good. They've got some players." And we just came out there and like pretty methodically like separated them into quarters like they were a dead chicken, you know. And that was a moment where I felt like, oh, like this is the proof of concept for the Alabama model, right? Is that you out recruit teams that are your rivals, and then you just like sort of like butcher them in a very workmanlike fashion. And I feel like 2021 Florida was another sea change. It was just like, this is the product. I think this is the product that Kirby Smart wanted on his first day in Athens in 2015 or 2016 or whatever it was, his first day. I think, I'm trying not to be hyperbolic here, but like there's like a question is Kirby Smart like capable of beating Nick Saban, and can he win a national title in the Nick Saban era? And like I don't really have the answers to that question anymore, right, or at all, not anymore. But like I won't until he does it, right? I don't know if he can or not. But I think today was the day that I was like, I don't think it matters, because Saban's going to retire.
Yeah.
And this is the product on the field that is going to, if it continues at this level, fill the void when Saban retires. Like this was like, I think that we can just say this, and we can say this even if Georgia doesn't win the national title this year, even if they lose a game they shouldn't, because Bama has done that too. That was Bama. That Georgia team was Bama. They are the bully now, right? And that was, and in the same way that Nolan Smith play was sort of the synthesis of everything that Kirby Smart wants to do as a coach, I think that this team too is it's his thesis. It's his like proof. It's his experimental results, right? It's his proof that like this sort of like nebulous concept that he had of like making the making the Saban thing happen at Georgia and making it happen with Kirby Smart's input. It's proof that he can do it. And it's going to be true whether he wins the national title, because I don't know if you look at the recruiting rankings right now, but like Georgia might have like Georgia could have the highest ranked, the best ranked recruiting class in the history of like modern recruiting this year. Like it's on the table, and a lot of that's because of transfers, but it's not just because of transfers. Like Florida had their highest 2 ranked commits decommit in the past 2 or 3 weeks, and Georgia could take both of them. Probably won't, because they're also going to probably take Ohio State's highest ranked commit that decommitted, right? Like in terms of program health and like future, yeah, we're going to lose a lot from this defense, and yeah, we're probably going to take a step back on defense next year. I don't think there's any way to avoid that.
No.
And yeah. I don't think next year's team is going to be like world beaters or whatever, but like I think at this point you see what's on the field, and you see what the second string is, and you see what the third string is, and you see what the recruiting rankings are, and it's just like we should all expect this to continue, man. Like, yeah, we're gonna have some down years or off years, and we're gonna like go to the Sugar Bowl some or whatever, but like we started this podcast like around the central premise that you just say what you see, and what I see on the field is that like there's nobody really close to this team in terms of just the foundation of what they do. And you might beat this team next year, or you might beat this team this year, but that ain't changing. Because not all those 5 stars aren't all seniors. They're not even all draft eligible.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my takeaway.
So in the blah, 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 blah. To get us kind of moving forward still, I want to go through these prediction reviews and then hop into the rest of the show, because we're not even halfway done, really. And we are an hour and 10 in so far. So,
oh my God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It was the 20 minutes of piss talk probably, but you know what? It had to happen. It was important content. And here we are. So prediction reviews, just over and unders and general prediction game review. Over under for Anthony Richardson picks. This is one of yours. 0.5 is what we went for. We both said over. It was actually under. You know, it is what it is. 0.5 JT Daniels snaps in the first quarter. You said under. I figured we'd see him. What's that?
Hold on. We said 0.5 Anthony Richardson picks, and we both picked over, right? So we both got that right.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. 0.5 JT Daniels snaps in the first quarter. We were pretty close, I'm sure, to seeing him at some point, but defense really turned it around and kept Stetson in the game. They are his biggest cheerleaders, I believe. So that is an under. Over under 35 UGA points scored. You said under. I said over. 1 point off. Boo. Over under 1.5.
Bad beat of the year.
Yeah, man. Florida UF players ejected. You said under. I said over. Thinking, you know, maybe 1, maybe 2. Who can say? They got a little fussy there for a minute, but nothing really bad happened. Then over under 0.5 Emory Jones picks. We both said over. It was indeed under. He had a very bland game, I will say. Very white bread game. Overall scores, you guessed Georgia 30 to Florida's 20. I was at Georgia's 38 to Florida's 13. So, you know, I got that one. And that's something. That's saying something here. But yeah, that's a little bit of a.
You did a good job today.
Thank you. I needed that. But hey, before we get into our favorite segment, the Ask CBC segment, we've done this funny thing to ourselves where we told everybody on their Patreon, if anybody wanted to create their own segment, they could pay a $50 on Patreon for a segment of their own. And, you know, anybody could do this. Anybody could say, like, here's $50, talk about piss for 20 minutes, if we hadn't already done that. But, you know,
I think we made it clear that you don't have to pay us $50 a month to get us to do that.
Yes, exactly. So Stephen Shadoin, though, instead of asking us to do something absurd, Stephen wanted us to talk about a nonprofit organization that he is very passionate about. And so we're just going to take a quick moment to discuss something we talked about last week when I challenged Nathan to debate me, which you never know what might happen. But Stephen wanted to talk about the Atlanta Urban Debate League, which I said is a nonprofit organization that provides opportunities for students in underserved Atlanta public schools to engage in competitive debate. If you've never seen a competitive debate, picture students or 2 grown men like ourselves talking fast with mountains of research, cross-examining each other over important issues ranging from climate change to nuclear proliferation, etc., etc. The AUDL is providing coaching, after-school activities, competitive tournaments, summer programming, youth enrichment, building leaders of tomorrow. They're serving hundreds of students in the Atlanta area through middle schools and high schools. And may I say, as somebody who has done it myself, competitive debate is a ton of fun. And there are tons of other positive benefits that come through participating in such activities, such as raising academic achievement within school. And it gives students critical thinking and advocacy skills that travel outside the classroom, perhaps to a podcast one day where they can debate their friends. But how you might be wondering yourself, how do I get involved in such a great opportunity, such as the AUDL? Well, let me tell you, friends, they need volunteers to judge debates. They also need your money, as any nonprofit does. As someone who runs a nonprofit myself, let me say, I would love your money. It would be super cool if you would contribute your hard-earned money so that I could give books to kids. But first, here, Atlanta, let's get kids arguing with one another in a professional and timed and formal manner through the Atlanta Urban Debate League. So check out atlantadebate.org for ways to support them and to get engaged. If you do donate to them, just say Go Dogs in the comment section so that we know where it's coming from. And if you are in the dog diaspora, and you live near a major metropolitan area, there is probably a similar urban debate league organization near you. From Houston to LA to New York, there are urban debate leagues across the country that need your help. But first, go check this one out. AtlantaDebate.org. Go check it out.
Yeah.
So, I did it. I did a thing. I did it. Did you hear me?
I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I gave you a moment so we can get right back into what we have already said and everybody knows is our favorite segment of the show. It's an Ask CBC segment. If you just want to send us questions, folks, or wait for us to record, and we'll let you know on Twitter when that happens, you can send us questions, or you can Gmail us, chapelbellcurve@gmail.com. We may just answer your question.
I'm sorry, let me pause you. Do we need to do Ben and Abby's segment?
I was going to throw it in a little bit later.
All right, carry on. Just take this out, editor.
Here we are.
If that's you. Yeah.
The very first question comes from Gmail. I have grown to love the Gmail questions because they are so formal in their delivery. So, this one comes from Mattzilla Alexander. Hello, spooky Justin and nefarious Nathan. I hope you both had a great Halloween weekend. I did. George's D line definitely scared the poop out of Dan Mullen's khakis. Questions. The Georgia QB mystery thickens with each game. Is JT's injury way worse than they're making it out to be? Is Kirby keeping him as an ace in the hole for postseason games? Nothing makes sense. I don't mind seeing Stetson run the offense, but shouldn't they try to find packages for each QB and give them both some snaps? I'll let you answer that a little bit. There's a little bit, you've answered that already, obviously, but there's a little bit more about why don't they give them some packages to offer them both snaps? I mean, we see running backs run back and forth between giving them both snaps.
I mean, there is a in-game. I don't know that from the game to game, like when you have two quarterbacks at this level, that continuity matters, which is what I was saying earlier about continuity not mattering. But I do think like in-game continuity does matter, and having the same guy out there and like knowing his tendencies is important. So that's probably why. I also think that my like sort of like 3D chess hair. Hold on, let me stick my hair up. Like aliens theory is that JT Daniels is not fully healthy. So I think that in that sense, it makes sense. You don't want to run him out there for one play and then have him get hurt.
Mm-hmm. Bonus question. Who is the Zodiac killer and why is it Dan Mullen? He has a penchant to talk to himself in the third person. He's got crazy eyes and looks like he knows how to dispose of a victim. That'd be a wild turn.
I don't think he's got this. I don't think he's the Zodiac killer, because the Zodiac killer was like
Ted Cruz.
Effective. I mean, like if Dan Mullen were the Zodiac killer, he would have like punched one guy in the face and then decided that it was actually better to not recruit weapons, you know, and then just tried to slap people to death or whatever. So no, I don't think it's him.
ATA presidents, how much worse can Dan Clown a Possum get without getting fired so that we can hate in perpetuity?
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. If he loses any of the next four, especially if he loses Florida State, yeah, he might be gone. But I think if he wins the next four, which we should all be rooting for, right? Yeah, he'll come back next year and he'll just fire his whole defensive staff.
What will happen to his 20 quarterbacks? Where will they go? What will they do? If Daddy Dan is not there to help them.
Did AT actually say? Oh no, you added.
No, I said all that.
I don't know. We'll have to start like a used quarterback like recovery center or whatever for Florida quarterbacks. Justin's home for wayward quarterback boys.
Please save these boys.
Where they'll all discover weird magical powers.
And someone else's wife will kiss them all, I guess. I don't know. Who can say? Dumbledore's wife. Or no, Dumbledore's gay, actually, so no wife there. But Dumbledore's husband may kiss them all. Who can say? Smith, in Ordinary. I'm honestly not sure how to ask this, but how are y'all calculating what I call, quote-unquote, the number? That is the amount of points this D would give up to Bama on a good day or good Oklahoma peak Ohio State. I just think there is a growing ditch between the idea of these great offenses and the actual data we have. Florida was supposed to be our main comparison, but they turned out to be dog shit. We have Tennessee left in Tech, but other than that, how do you use analytics to try and gain insight on things you might not have any true relevant data about?
All right, I'm going to try to do this like in 30 seconds and not embarrass myself. So, Quant Dog and Steven Chaduin and anybody else who is on the CBCR chat, I'm sorry in advance, y'all. I'm about to mess this up. But basically, when you do predictive models that estimate points scored, you can come up with like an average net point scored number over an average team. And the reason that you do that model in that way is so that you can have a comparative, like basically a comparative score of how many points would this team score against an average team, right? So you can very easily get into at least like a you can get yourself sort of like a range of how many points apart these teams are in the absolute sense, right? Like if Georgia is 29 points on SP plus, they're in the 29, I think, range, and Tennessee is 14 points above the average team in SP plus, then we would say that we expect Georgia to win by about 15, right? So then getting more into that, if we get average net points gained by the offense and surrendered by the defense, then we can really start like doing some comparisons to work out what we predict that these teams on an average night would do, right? So that gives us sort of like the statistical version, which I'm sure I just butchered. So I'm sorry again, people that are in the Quant Dog chat. But I think, going from there, I think one of the problems with this defense is that they are kind of breaking our numbers. They are 3.5 standard deviations per our in-season model. I think the last time I looked, they are 3.5 standard deviations above the average defense in a college football season. Just to be clear, like on a bell curve, this the namesake of this podcast, on a bell curve, 3.5 standard deviations would be like 1 standard deviation is the center curve, right? The center hump, right? That's from the middle, right? And 2 standard deviations is like the curve down. And then 3 standard deviations is like the tiny little point of the curve before it gets to the bottom. And then 3.5 standard deviations is where like the line is touching the bottom of the axis. Like that's how far out we are of what you would expect an average college defense would be. So I think that like UGA's defensive performance is actually lagging. Like the indicators of how good our defense is are actually lagging. I don't think the statistics have caught up with them. So you have to just take the numbers the statistics give you and like minus like 6 basically is what I would do.
So, next question, Andrew Delicato. How bad did Kirby break Mullen that now Mullen might be fired by the end of the week so he can go recruit?
Pretty bad. You got to wonder what he whispered to him at the post-game handshake.
I do wonder that
it was
sometimes.
The same thing. It was the same thing that Nick Fury whispered to Thor to make him not worthy.
Bryce asks, how many points does the Sardukar offense score on UGA? Those of you that are not indoctrinated yet, this is a Dune reference. The Sardukar are some of they're the Emperor's troops. Those of you that might be wondering.
Well, not many, because the Sardukar were like inherently corrupted by what we eventually find out is the Butlerian dynasty, which is actually called. Give me a second. When the Butlerian Jihad ends, the guy who started it, Butler, he changes his name, and the Padishah Emperor takes over, or he changes his name to being like the Padishah Emperor, but the Carino dynasty, they changed their names. So like the Sardukar were actually suborned by the Carinos, and you can tell by their behavior on Arrakis in the first book of Dune, they're not actually the like immovable holy warriors that they're presented as, and they're actually pretty corrupted, right? They disguise themselves among the Harkonnen troops. So I'm going to say not many, because in this scenario, UGA's defense are the Fremen. So they're like smart and, know how to do asymmetrical warfare. Everybody read Dune. It's one of the best things ever written by a human. Next question.
Speaking of Dune, Kwisatz Haderach, give a dog a bone.
Jesus.
I read it earlier and I did not laugh like that. No, that's the next username. Okay. We ran counter on play 1. Was this strategy to see if Todd Damn Grantham learned how to stop it, or was Kirby just double bird saluting to Pissy Pants TT Boy from get-go? What a beautiful work of art of a question.
Look, this question should be hung in the Louvre, right? It was beautiful, but I gotta say, dude, something can be two things. So yeah, both.
And then also a follow-up, thoughts on the Dune film. Thank you. Have you seen it yet?
So we'll be recording it. I have, yeah. We'll be recording a 2-hour-long podcast on this later this week. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I want to go see it again.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it in theaters, and I really want to. Okay. Dune is written. The Dune series is written at the level of subtlety and sort of like granularity and clarity of purpose that Game of Thrones pretends that it's written at, but never was. Mm-hmm. Dune is a truly sociological story that tells a sociological story through a psychological lens. It's basically impossible. It's very, very rarely been done in the Western canon. It is not hyperbole to say, I really do believe that Dune is one of the best things that humanity has written. And like, if we were going to give one thing to the rest of the universe, one of them would be Dune. And so my expectations are high enough that when I say I really like this movie, I need everyone to understand what level of compliment that is. Like, yes. This movie is basically unadaptable. It's like Neuromancer levels of unadaptable. It is impossible to put on a screen, and somehow they did it justice.
They did it.
I'm kind of worried about them getting the rest of them out, because like I know they haven't started on the second one, which is actually just going to be the second half of the first novel. Mm-hmm. But in a vacuum, like, do I like this movie? Does it capture what Dune was trying to do? Yes. Also, absolutely. Please do not get up and... The point of this, I think personally, the point of this is that, like, yes, Paul Atreides is a white messiah. That's the point.
That's the point.
The point is that messiahs are kind of messed up, right? Like, he is the white messiah for some, like, weird fate destiny reasons, but he's also the white messiah because of, like, these, like, implanted cultural memories that his mom's, like, order of weird nuns who marry people politically, the Bene Gesserit, have implanted in Arrakis. So, like, he is leveraging like pre-existing like planted mythologies from the colonizers from the get-go. His sort of like credibility as a messiah figure and his lack of credibility as a messiah figure is the actual point, right? And the fact that we're combining that sort of inherently corrupt messiah figure on top of what is essentially like a German Bild das Roman story, Bild das Roman story, means that we are predisposed to think of Paul Atreides as like the good guy, which he is, because he does have good motivations. He's just trying to do the right thing. But the point is that like inherently calling anyone a messiah figure is a corrupting influence, right? Power is a corrupting influence. Like Paul is not Lord Harkonnen, but like he falls prey to the same things that Harkonnen does in many ways. All right, we got to stop. We gotta stop. I'm stopping it.
Old-time favorite, West Coast Mark asks, does Dan Mullen travel in a Kia Rio with the entire coaching staff? #clowncar.
I mean, I think they all drive a Geo Metro. I'm going to make sure. Yeah, I think I'm going to say a Geo Metro. A Geo Metro with a convertible Geo Metro because he thinks he's cool.
Gross.
And he drives up in it and he's like, it's Britney, bitch, or whatever. All right, carry on.
Robert Hyder asks, got any favorite sci-fi books you'd like to recommend? Dune. First and foremost. Nathan really loves Neuromancer. I know that.
Yeah. If I was going to give you like... all right. So Dune, Neuromancer, Snow Crash. I'm trying to just give you like a brief tour of the history of science fiction. We got to get some like Afrofuturism in there. So we'll say Dawn by Octavia Butler.
Ooh, yeah.
If you haven't read... If you want to get into something new and weird and a little bit more online, the Cradle series is very good, like Chinese fantasy / science fiction. The Three Body Problem is very good hard science fiction from China. He Who Fights Monsters is a very good web novel, but it's being turned into a novel, and it's a very interesting interesting exploration of the web novel format. Okay, I'm going to stop. Do you have any bad?
I think that's perfect. Right. Sorry, lost our track. This is a fun question. I think this is really fun, and I'd love to hear if any of you listening have your own exchange rates for all of this. I would love to hear them as well, and so I'll get right into it. So, user by the name of SC on our Patreon or on our Discord, excuse me. People always talk about, would you rather this team win a title or that team? I think these are sort of lame questions, they say. What I really want to know are people's exchange rates for titles. Take your top 2 favorite sports teams, for instance. to get your number 1 team a title, you have to totally crater your number 2 team for a certain number of years. How long would you crater number 2 to get a title for number 1? And they provide an example. I'd crater the Braves. We're talking last place, no hope for at least 12 years to get a UGA natty. I'd crater the Falcons for 20 years. I'd let the Hawks change cities. So what do you got?
My second favorite team is probably the Braves. It used to be the Falcons, but I hate the way they were run by former UF fan, but I'll probably get back into them once they rebuild. So yeah, I mean, I like all 3 of the major sports teams. I like ATL United, but my love for Georgia is such that I would launch every sports organization in the state of Georgia, including all of the high school football teams, all the way down to Pop Warner football and T-ball, into the fucking sun if I could get one UGA national title. And not the people, to be clear, but all of the infrastructure, all of the like deeds of titles, all of the organization, all of the branding. I would wipe it from the earth like it was a bad ex-girlfriend from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind to get a title from UGA.
I think I'd go back through the entire sending the Thrashers to Winnipeg again. I think I'd do it one more time just to make this happen. And those of you who don't know,
I would send the Braves, Thrashers, Falcons, and the ATL United. Hell, throw the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Florida Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh yeah,
I would throw the entire rest of the SEC to Winnipeg, and Winnipeg could just be the sports city of international sports city, right? To get Georgia a national title.
Oh yeah, I'm here for it. Let's make it happen. Jay Ashley asks, what does it take to call up inside zone on the goal line and hand it off to Jordan Davis? Is this the final hurdle to cross to secure a Jordan Davis Heisman?
Well, Bro Broma pointed out on our chat today that Missouri has one of the worst running defenses in the FBS. So it feels like this is the week.
It could happen. This is the one. Irk Russell, is there anything better than making Mullen channel his inner Butch Jones after the game using lame metaphors talking about not dropping the rope?
I'm just trying to parse that question. Can you read that question around me again for me?
Yes. Is there anything better than making Mullen channel his inner Butch Jones after the game using lame metaphors talking about not dropping the rope?
I tried to make not dropping the rope part of the rest of the sentence instead of part of the metaphor.
Yep.
No, it is the best it is the best thing, brick by brick. Hashtag championships are nowhere. Let's go.
Adam H, what's up with Dot Pod? There were some
yeah, I mean, it was really windy. It was really, I mean, I don't think that was a great kick. I don't know anything about kicking, so I can't really give you a real answer.
Same.
But it didn't look like a very good kick, and it was really windy. He's clearly off his game.
And follow up, why was Kirby giving Ringo the business on the sideline at the end of the game?
Oh, he left a guy, and this was really obvious because it was on our side of it was like coming towards our end zone. Keely Ringo left a guy wide ass open on a play, and it didn't end up getting exploited because they didn't even read that side of the field, I don't think. But to Kirby Smart's credit, he yelled at him, and then Jamel Adai came over, and I watched all this happen in real time, but Jamel Adai came over and was like a little bit nicer to them, and then Kirby Smart came over, and they put him back in the play, like into the game, like 3 minutes later, and like when they put him back in the game, Kirby Smart said something to him and tapped him on the helmet. So it was clear that like while it was fiery, it was not like abusive. So I think he just did a freshman thing where he just like left a guy like he was like 20 yards from like the nearest defender, kind of open. So you ready for our second Patreon segment here today?
I am. Hit me with the basis, the context.
So this is from
What's that?
This is from Ben and Abby, and I think this is probably more of an Abby question. Ben got his question in last week about role-playing game systems, and now we're gonna get a college football question, I think, from Abby here. So tell us who you think which teams in the SEC are all the anonymous quotes from the Athletic article about Florida, and do a dramatic reading of it if you can. So I don't know if you read this article, but there was a article in the Athletic today that had a bunch of anonymous coaching quotes, and it was about how Florida is like soft.
No.
So I'm going to read these dramatically, and I want you to tell me what coaching staffs you think they are. All right,
Okay.
you ready? I'm going to read you some quotes. This is from an SEC East coach, doesn't specify. Florida, they just don't play hard. Georgia's trying to rip your head off. They might be up 30-0, 30-0, and their linebackers are flying up the field to get after your ass. Florida is a finesse team. Kentucky plays hard. You watch UF on tape, they've got some skill, but they're not physical.
That's either... I think that's either South Carolina or Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky, I don't think they're that uppity. What do you think?
So, yeah, SEC East, that might be Kentucky, but I could see it being like a little bit of sour grapes from South Carolina. We were more physical and much better than them in the box. This is an SEC offensive coach who played them this year. We were mauling them.
Oh, who was that? Was that LSU?
I think that, yeah, LSU feels like a likely culprit because Orgeron just got fired.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, did he? Did that just happen?
Dude, he got fired like 2 weeks ago.
Was that 2 weeks ago? I felt like there were talk of him getting fired, and then it didn't end up happening, or it was going to happen.
He reached a severance agreement and left. Basically.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if it actually followed through.
I think it's weird because it's happening at the end of the year. All right.
Okay.
Here's
one. That's why I got mixed up. Okay.
This is an SEC East defensive coach. This is the one that I think might be Georgia. So, what in the world are they trying to get done? Last year, they were doing some really unsound things defensively. They just do some crazy, goofy things. They're odd.
I can't imagine Kirby saying goofy for some reason.
Yeah, but I think it could be Dan Lanning.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
All right, this is my favorite one, right? This is from an SEC offensive coach. We'll do this as the last one. No, we'll do two more. Or we'll do this one and one more.
Okay.
We thought going in that it was going to be one of the best defenses we faced, but they just weren't physical. They don't look motivated, not fired up, no juice.
Who says juice?
Mm-hmm.
Who says juice? This is an SEC coach?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
SEC
probably
offensive coach.
This one could be Kentucky, actually. That feels more Kentucky.
Yeah, no juice. Yeah.
Unexpected
here's the
win.
last one.
Yeah.
Schematically, they make no adjustments on defense. They have no answers. They'll stay in a too-high shell as long as they can. They walk Jeremiah Moon down to create a five-man front, and they think they can stop the run with just that, but they can't.
Damn. This could also be LSU, though. Because they scored 49.
Well, LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one feels really like Georgia because they did this to them. This is from an SEC offensive coach. Grantham spends all of his time on third down packages with exotic pressures, but you can run the ball on them on third downs. There's no one in their front seven that scares you. They used to have defensive ends that were pass rush phenoms. They used to have shutdown corners. They don't have either now.
Yeah. Yeah. That could be Georgia.
That feels like Georgia to me. Anyway.
Damn, everybody's got some stuff to say about Florida right now.
Dude, I think people hate Dan Mullen.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick.
That is my theory.
Yep. We have one more segment to go in the show, and this is going to be our Yara's come back with a very classic rage against the machine podcast segment here, and so I'm just gonna just bust these out for you. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number one, describe Florida in 3 words. Go!
Oh, boy. In the interest of not getting fired, we'll say Florida delinda est, which is Latin for Florida must be destroyed.
Very good. I like it. How much piss do you think is on Florida's side of TIAA Stadium right now?
A lot. Gallons.
Just gallons of the stuff. Dog, I am so confused on how these playoff games work. Who do you think we're going to face in the playoff game we make it? That's me knocking on wood.
Ohio State probably... Ohio State is probably your the one you feel like really good about. And then, I mean, you got to think like Alabama. If UGA doesn't beat them, it's going to be Alabama. But I think Ohio State has a very clear path right now.
Yeah, I don't. As much as I would love for Cincinnati to sneak into the top four, I don't think they're going to let them. Because I think that if they do let them, which we'll know tomorrow, uh, they'll probably be number four, and we might play them eventually. But we'll see. What's your favorite video game right now?
I I mean, the boring answer is I've been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering right now, but I really like Valheim.
Ugh, Valheim. I miss it. I haven't played any games in so
Yeah,
long.
me too.
I play. I'm in when I don't play like computer games or console games. I get really into dumb phone games, and right now I've been playing this dumb phone game called Disney Arena, Disney Sorcerer's Arena, where you just gather up Disney characters and you make them fight. It's great. Uh, that's what I'm playing right now. If you could play any position in football and be the best at it, what would you play?
I think I think I would play tight end because I think you can play tight end for like 20 years, and it's a fun position where you get to hit people and also run.
I would be. I would love to be the best backup quarterback there is. So live in the Stetson Bennett life, essentially.
Ooh,
Petition for Redcoats. Petition for Redcoats to be able to get NIL money. I think I personally could be sponsored by Adderall XR and make bank.
I think one of the big inequities is that yes, Yara, you already can get NIL money. You can sell your status as a Redcoat member to anyone you want, and I mean, yeah, obviously the Redcoats might have some objections, but there's no law or rule against it.
I mean, you did already make the Justin Smith sponsorship money for kids who can't Discord good.
No, yeah, yeah, Yara can read well, so we'll say Discord good.
Yeah, there it is. How long should I wait between tattoo sessions? Because you bitches spent their per diem on a big ass thigh tattoo. LMAO, it's so cool.
If you're getting multiple sessions on the same piece, like you got lines and you're about to get color, my understanding is that you're supposed to wait like 3 or 4 weeks to let it heal. Now, if you are getting if you're like getting another piece, I mean, I guess just like whenever you feel like you're good on your walk with Jesus or whatever.
For legal reasons, this is a joke, but what real adult drink should I order from restaurants? I hypothetically ordered a real life sangria recently, and it was cool, and I feel like an adult now.
All right, so hypothetically, because I don't want you to drink underage, and I don't know if you're 21, but if you were 21, we'll talk about this as though if you were 21. I mean, I think the biggest like adult drink, I mean, is to go with something that's sort of a classic, like whiskey and ginger is pretty classic. Like an old number 7 is whiskey, ginger beer, whiskey and lime. Moscow Mule or a London Mule. That's another.
Get something in a fancy glass. Yeah, Moscow Mules.
Like an old fashioned if you like whiskey. That's like can be really good, especially if you're at a good place.
Tiki
there's
drinks.
Here's the other thing I will say. Like the cocktail menus exist for a reason, and if you're going to a bar that has good drinks, they're gonna have a menu of stuff. Just like read it and pick the one that has the most flavors you like. Like if they have it on the menu, they like it, right? Like they're not gonna have a featured drink on a cocktail menu at a nice cocktail bar that they don't think is a good drink. You know what I mean? So you're never gonna get judged for anything on there. So and if you don't know what to order, I feel like most adults have probably like 3 or 4 things that they. If you're at a bar with friends and you're gonna have a drink and there's no cocktail menu and you just have to pick one, like most adults have 3 or 4 things that are go-tos. You know.
Kind of feel like a piece of shit.
Sorry. No. Hold on. We can't answer this question.
Okay.
This is an off-air question.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, this is.
And we're off air. We'll answer this question, and if you want to hear the question, you can get on our Discord at patreon.com/TravelBooker. All right.
Book wreck me, please.
I was thinking about this the other day for you. I really think you should read The Left Hand of Darkness. I think you might have gotten that one from Abby already. If you haven't read The Left Hand of Darkness, Octavia Butler's Dawn, Left Hand of Darkness. I'm trying to think. I think you got both of those. Okay. I'm trying to lead you. Just thinking about what I know about you. I'm gonna say. I feel like sometimes you need like an easy win of a book, like not a book that's easy, but a book that sort of is.
It's lighter.
Maybe
sometimes.
like a little lighter, a little more life affirming, right? And so I am going to recommend that you either read Good Omens by Neil Gaiman,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett wrote that together,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty life affirming. It's about the end of the world and an angel and a devil who are like buddies and who are definitely in love. The other thing that I would recommend is Terry Pratchett. Anything by Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett is a very, very funny fantasy author, and he wrote a book about like women's rights.
Yeah.
And it's about witches, and the name of it
Oh.
is driving me up the wall. Equal Rights. It's literally called Equal Rights, but it's equal RITES, and it's about a female witch who's trying to get into wizarding academy, and they won't let her in because she's a witch and not a wizard, and so she like basically becomes the Harry Potter of the story by taking a job in the like fantasy school kitchen or whatever. It's very good.
Two books that reminded me of. One of them, The Once and Future Witches, came out, I believe, last year. Outstanding. If you love a good, like a feel-good story about witches and the suffragette movement, it's incredible. And then, if you are just on the lighter side of things, something I read last year was The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. That I think that came out in either late 2019 or early 2020 by V.E. Schwab.
Heard really good things about that. Yeah.
Outstanding. If you want to read a book about somebody who has a love affair with the literal devil and have conflicting feelings about it, check it out. It's very good.
Oh, I'll give you one more. Nenede Okorafor's Binti series. They're all really short. They're actually more like novellas, but they're together, kind of in an omnibus. And it's about this girl who leaves her like tribal home in Africa to go to like a intergalactic technology school, and it like because her family and her tribe are like super good at like basically like magitech, you know, and her ship on the way over there gets sort of like accosted and attacked by space pirates, and she is like the first human to be going to this academy, and like she falls in love with an alien, and it's super cute and very cute. But yeah, Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Ocean at the End of the Lane, Neverwhere. These are all beautiful. American Gods is a little darker. I'm trying to give you some not dark things.
Final question. Since I drive the truck, I cannot participate in bus wars. What is a bus war, and do you think I would win?
Yeah, I think you would win, because bus wars. My understanding is that bus wars are basically like won by whoever is the most willing to put their body at risk, and I feel like you would. And I also, bus wars, to explain, are when I was in band, these were not a thing, so I've only heard about them secondhand. And so, but my understanding is that it's kind of like you both start at opposite ends of the aisles of the bus, and you're like running at each other over the edges of the seats, and you basically have to just like get past each other. And it's like an Oklahoma drill in a charter bus aisle.
Mm-hmm.
It's stupid and dangerous, and no one should do it. I want to be on record as saying that. But yeah, I think because no, this is not. No, hold on. This is not like me saying as like legally I don't think you should do this. I'm saying don't do this. I'm Nathan. Like this is a copy of today's newspaper. I am not joking. There is no irony here. This is not the piss thing. I'm actually being serious. You will get hurt if you do bus wars. Don't do it.
Don't do bus wars. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, and that's our show. Do you want to see us out?
Yes, I would love to.
Oh,
this has been Chapel Bell Curve. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, pretty much anywhere you can subscribe to a podcast, including Spotify. You can get in touch with us on Facebook and by searching Chapel Bell Curve, by email at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com, and on Twitter and Instagram at Chapel Bell Curve. If you'd like to support this podcast, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you feel so inclined. Local bathroom walls also work.
Ooh,
5
yes.
stars. Talked about pee a lot would be a great one to write on a urinal wall.
No.
If you would like to support everyone's favorite pee podcast, Chapel Bell Curve. If you would like to support this even more, which at this point, why? You can find us at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. For some reason, the more I tell people not to give us money, the more money they give us. Anyway, we will catch you this weekend in the Classic City for the upcoming game against the Missouri Tigers. But until then,
go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
I can't believe you said the thing. Sometimes you say things and they become true. I cannot wait to see all the very pissed